the reality, the lay of the land is that BTC is ossified, and there's just too many large organizations, too many decision makers, too many people who don't want responsibility or accountability.
Paul Stortz, eCash, the hard fork coming this summer. We're a month into this project. What's the latest?
Well, we finished the $5 million fundraising round, so that's pretty big. It was mostly filled before the announcement, which was right before the Las Vegas conference, but it did fill up. So there is, despite the numerous haters, which I warned everyone who got involved with this, I was like, there will be a lot of haters because no one likes, if you criticize Bitcoin, no one likes if there's any competing project with Bitcoin, no one wants to hear about how Lightning doesn't work. Although, people are slowly warming up to that. And everyone's going to hate what we're doing. We're asking people to leave the tribe, which is impossible. But you see, this is all exactly why BTC has become so deranged. It's because it's death by 1,000 cuts. Everyone has just been, smiling and nodding and going along. Everyone just kind of smiles and nods, even when everything we do makes no sense. So anyway, I warned everyone there'd be lots of haters, but actually a lot of people have invested. So we raised $5 million. Breaking news. I didn't tell anyone on camera yet.
It sounds like you were actually tried to get this announcement amount out through official Bitcoin news channels, and
I mentioned it to a friend who was coordinating with us at Bitcoin Magazine, and then it was like they were like, oh yeah, okay, maybe, and then they were like, we got to go to the editorial board about it's not really a Bitcoin. And I was like, I know, but everyone knows that already. Everyone knows that already. This is on its face a total critique, a mindful, willful critique of BTC.
Well, it begs the question, has to arbitrate what's allowed within Bitcoin and some of the things you're pushing up.
Well, I kind of understand where they're coming from, but also I think it's huge. It doesn't make any sense in this context. But of course, they don't want someone who just says, okay, I spent 5 seconds making whatever coin, a Rizzo coin, and then, I'm going to get a bunch of eyeballs via.
Have you tried to post on Reddit yet? Because I would imagine that you would be deplatformed from Reddit.
Yeah, I haven't even tried. I haven't even been back.
You should. I feel like you have to. You have a moral duty
to post it and then post on the screenshot of it getting banned. And I'll be like, this is my account that's so many years old, and I have all this Reddit karma on r/Bitcoin. And I have to complain about it. See, that's a shame when people complain about it. Because it's I think we all have to just face the fact that, well, one thing I really feel bad for is when these people have their YouTube, they're bird watching YouTube channel. They've done nothing wrong. Then some AI uploads a bunch of stuff that's very similar, and then they get copyright, and then all their videos are permanently deleted. You hear all these sad stories. And I just think social media, you do have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, the whole thing. It just be well, that's why I'm happy we got eCash.com. So we're going to build that. We're going to have an archive.ecash.com. We're going to have all this stuff where we just put the stuff there. I think now it makes way more sense, the Bitcoin Talk forum and stuff. It's kind of cool that stuff exists in a place where people can't just, it's not even an executive at YouTube who deletes it all. It's the YouTube, software, some YouTube AI is just going to be deleting it all now. So I think the files are going to make a comeback, don't you think? We had a long period of time where you have an account, but I think maybe the whole file world will have a comeback for all the sovereign citizens. I mean, I hope so.
Perhaps another long read episode. So you got the $5 million. Can you tell us anything about the people who are in this round? What are their expectations for the project? This is a big fundraise. $5 million, in the middle of a bear market is real money.
Yeah, we started in January, and people were like, this is the worst time ever. I don't know if that's true, but it seemed like it wasn't great. When we first did the fundraising, the $3 million in 2022, it only took 30 to 60 days total. It was August 25th to something, I don't know, early, maybe late October or something like that. So I think, I think it's actually, we got people in at pretty low prices and valuations. So that obviously helps. The project has been out in the software sense for a long time. So we've always had layer2labs.com/download. We've always had ecash.com/download. So the software is out. People can they have the opportunity to try it for themselves. Well, as usual, people always accuse us of being like VC funded, which is a funny thing to say, but we actually just don't really get any VCs. Or sometimes it'll be a person who has like their own VC fund, but it's basically just them. So I don't really count that. It's all like basically Bitcoin OGs or people or like their friends. And so that's who it is, which I think is better because these people are much more informed. Normally, you do try to make people understand, like, you're sure you know like what you're getting into, and we tried to make it clear that this, again, as I said early on, I think this project doesn't have a very high chance of succeeding. It has maybe like something like a in the 5 to 15% chance, but I think it'll be much. People will be much more than 10xing
Do
if
you
it is a
plan
success.
to go public with the list? Are these people who are willing to kind of publicly back the project, or are they?
It's a good question. Like I've always just shrugged and said no, and because I feel like why would like they could just announce themselves, and it's like why if they take a chance and give someone money, invest someone money, there's like a lot of like trust and stuff that goes with that. I don't know. People are always like so interested in that. Like, isn't it kind of an ad hominem attack on
There's a lot
BTC?
of questions about eCash, and I've gotten a lot of personal questions about this so far. Of who's
Yeah,
backing
like
it?
who is? I think the question is kind of like a veiled insult or something. Like who would possibly be crazy enough to go along with this or something like that? Which I kind of understand if that's all it's supposed to be, like a locker room type thing, or invitation to like harassment or something. These people have like a lot of them are OGs and they have very 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 thick skin, so that most of them, and some of them are relatively new. Um, but
Are they as bearish on BTC as you are?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the recent people. Yeah, originally in 2022, the investors were kind of split. Some of them thought BTC is never going anywhere; it has ossified, which was a very um, that's kind of that was a lot of foresight back in 2022. And then half of them were kind of like, yeah, of course, we'll just work on this software, and then Bitcoin will just add it. Yeah, some of them are the kind of like investor who's just like, whatever, as long as it makes the price of Bitcoin go up, you should try it. So that would be probably more ideal for me to name drop those people and have them do it. But I kind of feel like, listen, like I don't need to like I don't need other people's reputation to like boost the project is really really good on its own merits. It's the project is great. BIP 300 itself has lots of endorsements, and the software is like free and open source software. So it is bizarre the things that people will complain about. Like
I
they'll
think
complain it's
the
VC funded, but we don't charge
is
anyone any money.
that these are the same forces that kind of split and drove the prior community apart with Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like for example, I was trying this big email went around. I'm not sure how well known this is, but after Segwit 2x was announced, there was a huge email chain that had like Adam Back, Jihan Wu, everyone, Roger Ver, all the Segwit 2x people, all the tech people, and they said something like, instead of doing this Segwit 2x project, why don't you just do Drive Chain? You could have your own 2 megabyte or 8 megabyte L2. And I don't know exactly why that didn't happen. Maybe the software wasn't quite as fleshed out, back then. Of course, if all these people had gotten involved and they had announced it publicly, there would have been a huge amount of new interest in it, and it would have been possible to like, create and test everything like in a month, like very quickly and stuff like that. But so that would have been like, maybe like almost 10 years ago. I always thought of myself as the force trying to not split the community, keep the community together. I think I honestly me personally did more than almost anyone to keep the community actually together. Now, ironically, I'm splitting off, but still, we have this eCash is just like its own thing, but we have the BIP 300 QSIV activator, which is free. So BTC could just activate all this stuff. So it's like, it's not really, I don't think it's really me that's splitting it off. It's just kind of like, this is the reality, the lay of the land is that BTC is ossified, and there's just too many large organizations, too many decision makers, too many people who don't want responsibility or accountability. So I don't. So yeah, I don't know, but that's a funny. I think the premise is something like a dark saboteur is writing like a big check and has hired me to like sow discord or something. I don't know. That's funny to me because I feel like I make all my own decisions and do whatever I want, and people constantly complain about what I do from all sides. and I feel like I don't care that much, so I just gotta keep doing whatever I want to do. I mean, one thing people told me for years and years was you have to stop criticizing Lightning. They said you're right. They said, Paul, they came to me secretly and said you're right about Lightning, but don't talk about it. It's supposed to be, you know, it's like the mafia or it's like Fight Club.
Well, this
We're
has
not
come
supposed
up
to
with
talk about it.
a new killing Bitcoin movie, right? Calvin Ayres funding a big Hollywood movie with big stars. This is, this is sort of what eCash is lumped in with, which is, rich financier, does Hollywood project aimed at undermining Bitcoin.
Well, I do think the Calvin Air thing is a little bit of a. I mean, because Bitcoin has had we've had like Greenpeace and all kinds of people attack us. We've had all kinds of well-funded people attack BTC. Uh, I don't know really what's going on in Calvin Ayre's head. I guess he was tricked into thinking that Craig was Satoshi, and he probably bought a lot of Bitcoin SV, and he's probably figured out. From what I understand, Calvin Ayres is like a genius marketer, so he probably thinks, oh yeah, this movie will, you know, whatever, help him make some money off of that. Uh, I don't think, I mean, to what extent would you say this movie is actually persuading lots of people that like Craig is Satoshi or that Bitcoin SV is a good idea? I don't know. I am totally open minded to either answer, but no one I know is going to change their mind either way. Like most people obviously think that Craig is a liar and a serial manipulator and fraud, and he has all kinds of ridiculous claims that can't possibly be true. And then there are some true believers. I don't see it shifting but that's an interesting idea. Like, is it possible that to me that seems like it'll be a very big expense, don't you think? Like, I don't know how much this movie is going to cost, but
Yeah, probably probably more than the eCash project. Okay, so you got the 5 million in the bank. Investors are backing it. In terms of how we're advancing to the software release, though, because you're going to release a client, there is going to be a split. It sounds like you've got developer work going on. Is the client ready? Is it in testing? Where is it?
yeah, the client has been out for a while, but of course we modify and improve it. And the goal is to have it completely 100% finished, like at least like 30 days before the actual fork date. We've started a bug bounty contest. We started it almost 2 weeks ago, and it is so we're giving away $100,000, maybe more, but it's 5 periods of 2 weeks, each $20,000, and
Is that in eCash or
it's
is that in
in what you
Bitcoin?
get paid before the fork, since it's now. So there is no possibility of sending eCash before it's actually created. So we can pay it in BTC or USD or whatever people like. And it's a contest where people submit bugs, and whoever can find the most bugs wins, basically. Although there's a clear hierarchy where some are more severe than others. It's like how a pair of twos will be ace high or king high. It's like, so some bugs are in a different category. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. So far, it's been really great. We've had maybe like 6 or 7 people enter and send lots. Some of them send lots of bugs. So again, there's different tiers. So some are just like little graphical bugs in like stuff that won't matter, but people haven't. So that's what we want to maintain, and we want to get all these bugs out because every piece of software has bugs. Of course, for L1, we basically use an unmodified version of Bitcoin Core with only like a few changes to trigger the fork. But we have this thing, the BIP 300-301 enforcer, which that's what activates BIP 300-301, and that's a little complicated.
Right. I was going to say, the client is so similar to Bitcoin. What is the consternation about the date, and when are you going to choose a date?
Choose what? the
The date.
the fork date. Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
currently supposed to be late August, and I hope that it will be. And so we're still on schedule.
How will you know like when it's ready
Well,
to make this
I think
process?
we'll put out the bug bounty. We'll have a large bounty, and then we'll see like if no bugs come back. The bugs again are in categories. So any bug that would like maybe like allow you to steal someone else's money or like crash the chain and stop it from turning back on, those are like really really severe. And then some other bugs are just like, this doesn't match what it says in the specification or in the BIP. This is like whatever, not the right thing or something. So some are just tidying things up. But yeah, of course, the ideal situation would be we offer a large amount of money to anyone who can find any bugs. People have been finding bugs, and then all of a sudden they can't find any more, that would obviously be an indicator that it's bug free. And I'd just like to again stress that we have like the L1 is basically Bitcoin Core. Then there's this BIP 300 301 activator. Then we have a user interface. It's called Bitwindow. And Bitwindow is kind of like, it's a little bit more of a move fast, break things. It's kind of fancier, but it's not as important. It's not like, but you could still have bugs and it could still, it could still have effects that aren't great or mislead people or something. So, but it's fine if there are bugs in that every year for the next 100 years. That's not a big deal. And then there's the L2s. These are all their own piece of software. They could all have bugs. They could have different bugs or all the same bug or whatever. So that's again a whole different thing. It's not as severe because those are supposed to be the newer thing. But yeah, we really, really, really don't want any bugs in the L1. So that's the focus for now.
Look at the funding. We've got the developer program. Where can folks go if they want to enter into the program?
Well, okay, yeah, the bug bounty. A good thing is to follow me on Twitter. You can go to eCash.com and read about it. I also posted on drivechain.info. I posted the actual text about how it works, and I linked to our Telegram. We have some Telegram groups. These are good. t.me/DC insiders. These are good ones to join, where all the drive chain people hang out, and then just send me a message with the bugs that you have found, and I will just keep track of them for you. And then if people who find more bugs will earn more money. So you can read all the details in the article.
So what is unfinished at this point? What do you need to harden to get to this launch?
Well, I think we don't need to build anything that hasn't been built yet. As far as tech goes, it would be really nice if we had one thing that we announced recently was that we are building our own open source mining pool. And this is not just supposed to be for us. This is supposed to be just like a gift to the world, because right now there's not, we don't really know what the Bitcoin mining pools are running per se, and they all have their personalized, optimized thing. So the goal is to make this some common public resource, some project that everyone shares, and so we can make it very, very optimized, and so that would be nice if we could, just because everyone deserves,
Wait, so miners will be mining, but you think the formation, you want to accelerate the development of mining pools?
Part of the idea for this, having not necessarily to do with eCash, is just okay, can we get to a world where, for example,
you just end up with one pool though at launch?
Yeah, I think the mining and the pools will kind of take care of itself, because it did with Bitcoin. But I don't. I think we should improve it. We should just improve it overall. So even if there was no eCash, the idea was, can we get to a world where every miner, everyone with SHA-256 hardware, if you have a BitAxe, you would just download this thing, this pool hopper software, and then it would know, it automatically figures out where all the pools are and how healthy they are, and if they've been censoring transactions, or if they have abnormally bad luck, or if they do whatever. And this thing would be your little one-stop shop, and you would have all the firmware, maybe latest firmware. It would be kind of a user-friendly thing, so that they don't have to think about which pool to join, and then you would just figure out, okay, these are the pools that pay more than others for pay per share, and then it would just
expect there to be a competitive market formation for pools pretty quickly. Then
I'm just talking about, if we forget about eCash for a second, it would be better if we had this world where actually the pool creation and movement among the pools is just controlled by the software, and then the pools would still exist, because the pool is a brand, in my view. So you would still need to have the pools compete, and they would have a website, and they would say, choose us for all these reasons.
And at this point, there's no coordination with the miners. You're just expecting the market to handle.
We had a lot of I don't think it's worth it to coordinate that much with the miners. One thing that we want to do, it's on my list, is to maybe be able to rent. I have some working out some kind of business deal now, where it's we could rent a large amount of hash rate for a short time. So 1 to 5 exahash for a week or 2 weeks. And this is just to make sure we get off the ground the right way. So it's kind of like either the project will launch and it'll be very small, and it will be very cheap and easy to just rent the hash rate with no complicated, business logic or anything like that. Or a project will be really, really big and it'll be very healthy. But it's kind of like if it's just like medium big or something, and then the difficulty is rapidly adjusting up because we're still trying to find it, the initial difficulty, like right out of the gate, we might need to rent some hash power to get past the launch day or the launch month, basically. So that's one thing that we are looking at. But yeah, the mining, like, I think it's the type of thing where if people could, each individual person could make money by, like, if they say, okay, you know what this project needs. Everyone's been solo mining and making a lot of money, but now the difficulty is going up and up and up. People need a mining pool. Someone who's not me at all, and not even affiliated with eCash. They could be like, you know what? Okay, let's grab this off the shelf mining software and we'll start one up. So that's partly why it's a good idea that we're also working on this open source mining pool. And I think even though that's brand new, it's sort of coming along. And I just like to reiterate, because people always think, oh, is this? It's not supposed to replace Foundry or Antpool or whatever. It's just supposed to be like, ideally the software would be so good that they would want to use it, because, like, we don't really need Foundry to be a specialist in software development, right? And we don't necessarily want them to run their own weird software that, we kind of want to have more transparency than that, I think. So ideally, they would just be a brand, and they would maybe run extra stuff like on top of or next to, or they could run like a fork of it. But yeah, I think there should be like a public open source mining pool software, and not just the mining pool itself, but this pool hopper idea where the people don't have to think, if you don't have to think that much. Another part of this idea is actually getting paid out on the L2 drive chain, so you can get 8 billion people mine and they can all get paid out, which is not possible with today, because since BTC doesn't scale to 8 billion people, it doesn't scale to 8 billion miners. So it's actually a prerequisite. Before you can have 8 billion miners, you have to scale to 8 billion people. So yeah, these are just some of the crazy things we've been working on.
So the mining pool still coming to formation, client and development, hardening. What about wallets, like ecosystem? Day one, what's the experience with eCash?
I'm hoping that we've been in some talks, so I don't want to announce anything prematurely, but I do think we'll be, we have like our own mobile wallet that is just, I don't think it works, but it's rudimentary. And I think the bigger thing would be some of these wallets that have like the swaps built in, so they're kind of like already like an exchange to some extent. And that's like all the wallets have quietly become exchanges, like when no one was looking. And that's fascinating to me, first of all. But yeah, I think we'll definitely have a few of those that'll probably be announced very, very soon.
All exciting developments. What should we cover next in terms of upcoming announcements? We've got looking out for what is the next big release that you expect to ship to the base.
Well, I think people should try the software. If you haven't tried it already, try it out and go to layer2labs.com/download or ecash.com/download and try it on a Signet, because Signet is just fake money and where the blocks just come in on schedule. And you can see for yourself, what's there. And you can see for yourself that, it has well, I don't know how much people will be able to infer, but the software is pretty cool and it does explain itself and has a nice interface. I think if people just look at that, they would already see why this is more interesting to a lot of people than Lightning, and more interested from a privacy point of view than, CoinJoin. Those are very weak compared to what we already have. And we have a lot of extra stuff besides.
How do we segue into our conversation about water and faucets from earlier?
It's a good question. Well, okay, so you were talking last time about, like, should, what gives Bitcoin value? Pleasing the customer, or just the fact that it's existed for the longest amount of time? And I was thinking, well, that's nice that it's existed for a long time, but
Well, it has the Lindy effect, right? This is
Yeah,
the
the
smart people
Lindy effect is
upset.
good. Um,
I don't know. That's just like what smart people say, right? That it's
yeah,
Lindy.
because of course, like dying at the age of 25 that's the most Lindy because that's what people for hundreds of thousands
20,
of years
27 was really
people
the golden
people
one
would die.
because there's a 27 club. You want to be in the 27 club.
Yeah, because your teeth would get rotted out. The only thing evolution could think to do is grow the wisdom teeth and push out the dead teeth. This is the only thing that evolution could think to do to buy people a couple more years and then they would die.
But the model that we were discussing was essentially earlier technologies. This idea of maximalism, right? eCash trying to bring back maximalism is trying to bring back this idea that Bitcoin can do all the things. And I hit you with, plumbing, water, right? This was a huge invention. You're thinking revolutionize people's lives. There are special purpose delivery mechanisms, right? You have a sink, you have a faucet, you have a toilet, you have a tub. There's been competition for delivery of this vehicle. And if you're thinking about Bitcoin or eCash or cryptocurrency as a utility, right? This is Balaji Srinivasan has kind of made
Mm.
this argument. Internet, like Bitcoin is the next utility. eCash could be a utility. It does seem like in earlier technologies, there's fragmentation, electricity, AC, DC, faucets.
Yeah, it's common for technologies to be diverse at first and then to standardize later. So you can see this in like cars in particular. Like a lot of the cars today, they're all very similar.
Like you're trying to be the electric
Yeah, well,
car.
I think we're on the.
eCash is the
I
electric
think there will
car,
be a
the
time
motor.
when everyone knows.
If Bitcoin is if cash is the dune is the buggy, horse and buggy, and Bitcoin is the
Mhm.
car, eCash is the electric
Yeah,
car.
Bitcoin could be like the Model T. I'm not sure the analogy starts to. I think the water analogy is more interesting because I'm saying like it's the same water, and it's the same water, but some people want to use it in a different way. And the drink maximalists are saying you should only drink the water, and it should only be cold water. And I'm saying, well, some people want hot water, and some people want a shower, some people want a toilet, some people want to water their lawn. Um, I think you have to strike the right balance. Like Lindy, things can be Lindy. I think Lindy is a double edged sword, obviously, because it's like obviously if what you've got is pretty good. So the having Arabic numerals, 0 through 9, that's already what they call universal. So you can write any number you want using those 10 digits. And so you don't need a new. There was originally I think the Greeks invented something, and it topped out at a myriad, which was 10,000, I think. And I'm not sure. There might have been a way to write like more than 10,000, but basically they just kind of thought wasn't a need for any numbers greater than that. So it sort of worked for a time. But the way our Arabic system works, and they're actually from India, but since they traveled through Arabia to get to Europe, they're called Arabic numerals. Um, those are universal and they can write anything. So that's the drive chain idea. Say, well, hey, listen, any blockchain thing, any block size, any weird
Maybe a weird question, but like, why is it that you can represent any number with those 10 symbols? Could you have just picked any? You could have just picked any 10 symbols,
well,
right?
the quantity of symbols is not the issue because of course in binary you can also do it. I think the idea was the positioning.
Or Junior with the
Yeah.
tonal, like this
Well,
is
of
the
course,
same
the,
kind of
the
thing.
the thing with the Roman numerals that people are maybe familiar with, where you can do like IV and that's a 4 because it's 5 - 1. That only came later. So originally it was this like additive, and you had to like um, keep. But the problem with those is that you have to write more and more. You have more and more X's, or you need a new letter to like you know what I mean. You need to get to M or something for.
Well, maybe the implication was like they thought you needed a visual scale, like for like they tried to scale like the visualization of the number with the actual
Yeah,
representation.
you wouldn't want so because the Arabic system says when
They
you
have
place the
infinity. Did they have was there a Roman numeral? Was there a Roman numeral for
I
infinity?
think not, and I think notably there was none for 0. So 0 is the placeholder that says, okay, it proves that the position left to right is significant, and that was the innovation. And it said,
I don't understand numbers. Like,
yeah,
right, I'm not a math person, so
because
like,
it's
this
like
is
you write
all
1001 in the kind of like the Roman numeral version would just be like one and then one, and then it would look like two, or it would look like two instances of one or something. But saying that, okay, each digit counts for new power. So then that gave it this thing universality, and that's what BTC doesn't have, in particular because of the block size limit, but also especially because we won't soft fork now. So, but we could easily have it, but for a variety of reasons, people have chosen not to have it. So I think that's a big
so
difference.
Bitcoin Roman numerals
Yeah,
too.
BTC is like the Roman numerals. Yeah.
Also, like enforced by a large sort of empire of like of in
Yeah, and
culture.
it was
Really,
probably
and
there
I
were
mean,
people who were like, "Listen, we've been writing Roman numerals for 800 years. We don't need this new system."
so then what are the eCash? Who are the rebellious? Are you the unconquerable Gauls, or
That's a
like
good
what?
point. I would think. I think we're more like the. I would prefer to believe that we're more like the beginning of the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. So we could be like, whatever, Netherlands and London, and we could be like Sir Isaac Newton, whatever.
I think anyone wants to be the Netherlands. That's like
They had a golden age where they invented capitalism, they invented the stock market, sort of.
it's gonna be hard to build a culture around eating. What is that fish? The kippers, or like what's that fish that they eat sandwich? That they, I like it, but it's not. I don't think it's for
Lots of
everybody.
flowers, at least. Yeah,
The pickled herring.
yeah,
That's what it is. Not like a big crowd pleaser outside of
yeah.
the Netherlands.
And so, yeah, that was like the West has had many false starts. It's like Athens and Rome, Florence, and etc. So, but then we achieved liftoff.
Well, there is a sort of like Greco-Roman, like Bitcoin does sort of gravitate towards Greco-Roman stuff, or has recently, maybe over the last 6 or 7 years, right? You could argue that there's been the sort of, muscly sort of culture of, strength, like projecting strength,
If you want
has been a big
peace,
part of the
prepare
Bitcoin
for
culture.
war. That type of a thing. Uh,
I was just thinking, like, Bitcoiners are like gravitating towards like health and like wellness and like certain
True,
eating
like
habits.
wrestling naked against each other. Making
I don't know where you're
making
hanging out, but
making sculptures. Okay, so like, but here's okay. Rome and Greece. That's not ossified, right? Like they did new stuff that no one ever did before. Then they tried to standardize it, and then over time people grew complacent and they didn't actually, like the idea of the Praetorian Guard. Like they used to have to stand there in full armor all day, and then eventually they dropped more and more of the armor, and then they could like sit down, and then by the end it was all just fake. So they were still called the Praetorian Guard or whatever, but they weren't really doing it. Like they were innovators. They were genius inventors.
of your tribe, the new tribe that you're forming, if it can have like a symbology. I actually once predicted and spent a long time talking to Udi Wertheimer about that like Bitcoin culture was gravitating more towards like sort of traditional white right wing sort of like archetypes and sort of things, and that eventually you might see like a repercussion of that, like where people were sort of rebelling against that sort of
Mhm.
signaling, right? Like Bitcoin is very aligned with like American values and like certain political
Well,
spectrums.
definitely the
So
Tea Party and all that stuff. That was very right wing, and the Fed, Ron Paul stuff. That's associated with American right wing. And there's bailouts from 2008. Remember those? Remember when that happened? That was all like skepticism of like large banks, and traditional Republicans hated that at first. Um,
well, now it's interesting because we do have, I think, like I was thinking about this the other day, where like it seems pretty obvious that industries are being split in the party system, right? Like, because I was thinking, like, oh, I don't really like the fact that, like, the Republicans are like pro crypto, and now the Democrats are pro banking, and then, but I was thinking, I was like, well, when the Democrats became pro solar, then all of a sudden the Republicans were like pro oil, right? So this is just sort of a
I
natural
think it's I
sort of
think we're in
selection.
the rough shit. Is you and I are both Americans somewhat, but it's like I think it's not great. It was the founding fathers set up a more hands-off government but now it's like everyone's got to take a side, and I think that's not good at all. It's not great.
But isn't like Americans like so? This is the argument for the BTC sort of system, right? Is that some of these things that like were built on top of the foundation weren't envisioned by the foundation, but they were sort of inspired by the limitations like of the current system, right? Like you want to have to build around the weaknesses, right? The two party system isn't envisioned, and there's nothing in the original democratic process about a two party
Right, but
system,
I
right?
don't know
Like
if you know
there's
this,
nothing
but it may
in.
not. But on truthcoin.info, I published a huge essay. It's like 160 pages long, and it's an essay on democracy. And so in my spare time, I write essays about democracy, and it's about how the democracy requires a two-party system, and that it should be in the Constitution. And the government, the two parties should each have a leader, and when you lose an election, the leader should be fired and replaced, so that you're not only electing the leader, the president of the United States, but you also fire the leader of the opposition and replace them. So I write this huge, giant essay for anyone who's interested in crazy essays, and I summarized it in 2 pages. Also, you can go to truthcoin.info. In my spare time, I write about politics, and I also write about epistemology. And so sometimes these essays, they made it to like Slate Star Codex and stuff. They made it to like some of them have made it around the internet. And so I write a mean essay, usually pretty long though.
Well, check that out. I guess while you're registering for the bug bounty, Paul, any thoughts to leave the viewers with getting excited about this fork date, or for those who are fearful about the coming eCash
Yeah, a lot of people are
launch?
going to be afraid, but you get free money, so just focus on that. And we get competition. I think competition is good. This is part of part 10. The democracy essay is in 10 parts, and the 10th part is called competition, the one true God. So it's all related. And same with the mining pools. We want the pools to compete. When people compete, it's usually good for the end user, the consumer. So we want more competition. We want two healthy competitors.
Sounds
What's
like
next?
you've got at least you've got Mr. Hoddle out there waiting for the
Yeah,
airdrop.
that's one fan, sort of a fake fan, really, because he probably wants to sell it, of course. But we'll take whatever we can get.
But he'll have to choose when to sell it, right? There's some
Right.
game there, right?
And then after he sells, he'll have some, if the train leaves him behind, then hey, it's like when Walter White sold his shares for $5,000 or whatever in Breaking Bad. So, but yeah, we want two strong competitors. This is a really, really important point. And so I cover this in the essay about democracy also. You don't want Biden is very frail, and that means that Republicans can slack off. They don't have to pick the best candidate. They just think, well, hey, that's what they're going to do, and vice versa. So we don't want BTC. It's bad for everyone for BTC to have no competitors, and it's good for the Bitcoin user if BTC has to compete. So everyone should be pushing for more competition. That will help you as a Bitcoin investor and a Bitcoin user. The more competition is good.
Paul, always fascinating. eCash, you can check it out at ecash.com. Of course, we're counting down. We'll be bringing you updates on this channel. You can go over to the youtube.com/ecash.com. Check it out. Weekly spaces coming out, tutorial videos. Of course, you can like and smash that subscribe. Stay tuned. Free money, next fork. We don't know what'll happen next.
Thank you.